setting the agenda for Bharat. You're watching Republic.
Hi there, good evening. Hope you had a great Sunday. And now it's time to look forward to the coming week. Welcome back to this week's edition of Looking Forward. This show is about stories that are shaping up over the coming days and weeks. News that is developing and will have consequences for your life and mine and impact our choices. Stories that shape India's and world's politics and economics going forward. So let's get going. Tonight's show, like always, packs a punch with 4 stories that you should look forward to. All of them in the coming week. First up, we bring to you the heat of the hustings for the election of the next Vice President of India. The vacancy created by the resignation of Jagdeep Dhankar is all set to be filled this Tuesday, September 9, with the members of Parliament from the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha. They vote, and by 6 p.m. we would know who takes the chair between CP Radhakrishnan of the NDA and B Sudershan Reddy of the Indi Bloc. Second story under our lens is the upcoming visit of Prime Minister Modi to Manipur. Yet to be officially announced, but there are enough indications on the ground that it's happening. Would we finally see a closure to the unfortunate ethnic strife with the PM visit in Manipur? That's our focus. Stay tuned. Story number 3. Tonight we capture the momentum in talks between India and Europe for a free trade agreement. In the midst of Trump's tariff war, an India-EU trade deal would be a strong signal to the world of India's confidence and unwavering commitment to strategic autonomy. And finally, story number 4 gives you a lowdown on the BRICS summit, another platform that riles President Trump. BRICS is going to specifically discuss how the member states, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, can tackle Trump's tariff tantrums. After Tianjin, this sure is going to give some heebie-jeebies to Washington, D.C. Remember, this is a virtual summit. India would be represented by External Affairs Minister, but then all eyes on that very important deliberation between BRICS nations. Let's get going. As always, headlines first. Jharkhand minister threatens to dig graves of BJP leaders, remains defiant, refuses to apologize when confronted on Republic. TMC MLA Abdur Rahman Bakshi threatens BJP MLA Shankar Ghosh of pouring acid in his mouth. Congress president insults farmers, accuses one who complained of crop loss of seeking publicity. Rare gesture by PM Modi sits in the last row at NDA workshop. Radhakrishnan shares picture calling him a strength of the party.
Completely not correct. It has nothing to do with the tariff. GST and the reforms associated with GST had to find the light of the day sometime.
FM Nirmala Sitharaman speaks exclusively to Editor-in-Chief Arnab Goswami, clarifies GST and tariffs not linked. Russia's biggest aerial attack on Ukraine cabinet building set on fire. Zelensky condemns the attack. Japanese Prime Minister Ishiba steps down after party's defeat in key parliamentary polls, cites tariffs as key reason for resignation. And Yemen rebels launch a drone attack, target Israel's Ramon airport in southern Israel. Airspace shut down, flights suspended post the attack. Welcome back, friends. Tuesday is a big day in New Delhi. The battle lines are drawn, campaign is in full swing. Just that, not with stump speeches, but silently over meetings, luncheons and dinners. The members of parliament would elect the next Vice President of India, and we would know by 7 p.m. day after tomorrow who wins. Some say it's a given, a no-brainer, given the numbers are stacked heavily in favor of NDA and its candidate CP Radhakrishnan. Is it then just going to be symbolic fight for Indy and Justice B Sudershan Reddy? Or is it about a power test ahead of Bihar polls? Sit back and watch this.
This cryptic post by former Vice President Jagdeep Dhankar resigning on health grounds set the ball rolling. The second highest office of the land had become vacant on the first day of the monsoon session of the parliament. The Vice President of India also acts as an ex officio chairman of the Rajya Sabha, which is the upper house of the parliament. While symbolic and ceremonial as Vice President, the role in Parliament is very crucial, even politically sensitive, given that often the majorities are thin and voting patterns fluid in the House of Elders.
Let the lobbies be cleared.
Dhankar had his share of controversies.
Let the lobbies be opened.
And even resignation of his did not make the opposition believe.
Why he resigned, nobody knows till now. He only said health reasons.
But now the poll to elect his successor is upon us. Members of both the houses of the parliament would vote on Tuesday, September 9th, to make the next VP pick.
In the president's election, the members of the state legislature also participate, whereas the electoral college for the vice president comprises only the members of the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. The second point is that the nominated members of the Rajya Sabha do not participate in the president's election, but they do participate in the vice president's election. On the 9th of September, the election will be held through the process called proportional representation by way of a single transferable vote. For this purpose, a ballot paper will be issued to the members of the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha, and they have to record their preference on that ballot paper. Now, in order to be valid, at least number 1 must be recorded against one of the candidates. Whether second or third preference is recorded or not is not material.
Election Commission is charged with holding the election, which happens as per the provisions of Article 64 to 68 of the Constitution. The Electoral College has 788 members, 545 of the Lok Sabha and 243 of the Rajya Sabha. In the present, with 1 vacancy in the Lok Sabha and 5 in the Rajya Sabha, the Tuesday election would see 782 votes in play.
Since in this election only 2 candidates are there, recording of the first preference is adequate. If there were more candidates, then the importance of the recording of second, third preference will come into light, because only the candidate who gets more than 50% of the valid votes cast gets elected. Since here that issue is not there, otherwise the third or fourth preference people would their votes would get transferred to the other candidates. So here, since there are only two candidates, the candidate who gets more than 50%, that is 50% plus one vote of the Electoral College, will be declared as elected.
As per the Election Commission notification, the polling would take place between 10 a.m. and 5 p.m. inside the Parliament, and counting of votes at 6 p.m. Let us come to the candidates now.
हमारे उपराष्ट्रपति के प्रत्याशी के रूप में हमारे महाराष्ट्र के राज्यपाल श्री C.P. राधाकृष्णन जी, चंद्रपुरम पुन्नासामी राधाकृष्णन जी, उनको हम एनडीए का प्रत्याशी बनाएंगे और वो एनडीए के प्रत्याशी के रूप में रहेंगे.
The NDA pick, C.P. Radhakrishnan, ticks the boxes on multiple counts. The sitting Maharashtra governor is an old RSS hand, putting to rest the grapevine about rift between the BJP and its ideological mothership. He comes from Tamil Nadu, a state going to polls next year, thus giving an edge to the NDA in the Dravidian narrative war. And he belongs to the OBC community, thus blunting the Rahul Gandhi politics over OBCs. The opposition was caught off guard.
आरएसएस का कार्यकर्ता है सीपी राधाकृष्णन जी, और हमारा क्लियर व्यू है कि मीन्स एक आरएसएस का कार्यकर्ता होने की वजह से उनका ये मौका मिला है, और हम इंडिया अलायंस एक सही स्ट्रैटेजी बनाएंगे. कांग्रेस इंडिया अलायंस का लीडर सारे मिलके तय करेंगे क्या करना है आगे का.
Ultimately, pulling out a former Supreme Court justice from retirement.
The opposition parties have nominated Sri B Sudershan Reddy Garu as their joint candidate, since he reflects fully and values that saved our country's freedom movement.
Even the indie choice was not without a row.
सुप्रीम कोर्ट का रिकॉर्ड है, सलवा जुडम को इन्होंने खारिज कर दिया. आदिवासियों का आत्मरक्षा का जो अधिकार था उसको उन्होंने समाप्त कर दिया. इसके कारण इस देश में नक्सलवाद 2 दशक ज्यादा चला है. उस वक्त नक्सलवाद अंतिम सांसें गिन रहा था. जो स्कूल तबाह हो गए थे नक्सलियों के कारण, उस स्कूलों में सीआरपीएफ और सुरक्षा बल बैठे थे. रातों रात एक ऑर्डर करके सबको बाहर कर दिया. कई जगह हमले हुए सुरक्षा बलों पर. ये दोनों जजमेंट, इसका जवाब श्री सुदर्शन रेड्डी से ज्यादा राहुल गांधी ने देना चाहिए.
Opposition counters this with the RSS jibe at the NDA candidate.
चुनाव इंडिया और एनडीए के बीच में है. इंडिया का उम्मीदवार एक रिटायर्ड सुप्रीम कोर्ट का जज है. एनडीए का उम्मीदवार आरएसएस का एक मेंबर है. राज्यसभा को चलाने के लिए कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन को समझना जरूरी. राज्यसभा कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन के मुताबिक चलाई जाती है. इंडिया का उम्मीदवार जीतेगा, कानून के मुताबिक, कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन के मुताबिक राज्यसभा चलाएगा. एनडीए का जीतेगा तो वो एक रबर स्टाम्प होगा, और अगर कहीं गलती की तो पिछले वाइस प्रेसिडेंट की तरह उन्हें निकाल के बाहर खड़ा कर दिया जाएगा. ये बात एनडीए के बहुत सारे एलाइज समझते, इसलिए हमें पूरा भरोसा है कि इंडिया का उम्मीदवार ये चुनाव जीतेगा।
The stage is set, but how are numbers stacked?
देखिए, उपराष्ट्रपति के चुनाव के नतीजे पूरे देश को पता है। किस व्यक्ति को, किस उम्मीदवार को जीतना है, ये तय है। सवाल यही उठता है कि वो कितने वोटों से जीतेंगे। जिस प्रकार की रणनीति या स्ट्रेटेजी एनडीए के उम्मीदवार के लिए तैयार हुई है, मुझे लगता है कि एनडीए के जितने सदस्य हैं उससे अधिक मत, जो औपचारिक सदस्य संख्या राष्ट्रीय जनतांत्रिक गठबंधन की है, उससे अधिक मत एनडीए के उम्मीदवार को मिलने जा रहा है। ये एक मुझे लगता है कि तय है, पूरी दुनिया को पता है, पूरे देश को पता है। और 9 तारीख को देश को एक नया उपराष्ट्रपति मिलेगा, इसमें कोई संदेह नहीं है, और वो एनडीए का होगा, इसमें भी किसी को कोई संदेह नहीं है।
The reason why Vijay believes NDA might exceed its numbers is because the VP election happens with the secret ballot. The party whip does not apply.
दोनों कैंडिडेट्स पूरी मेहनत कर रहे हैं, तमाम राजनीतिक दलों से रिक्वेस्ट कर रहे हैं, नेताओं के पास जा रहे हैं। नतीजा क्या निकलेगा ये तो वक्त बताएगा, लेकिन दोनों उम्मीदवार अपने अपने तरीके से और उनकी पार्टीज अपने अपने तरीके से मेहनत कर रही हैं। वक्त का इंतज़ार करना चाहिए कि कौन जीतता है।
The battle lines are drawn. This is Rajiv Rai, a Samajwadi Party MP, who had received birthday wishes from Home Minister Amit Shah just a couple of days back.
उपराष्ट्रपति के चुनाव में इंडिया गठबंधन के प्रत्याशी सुदर्शन रेड्डी साहब को जिताना इसलिए देश के लिए और संविधान के लिए जरूरी है। निश्चित रूप से इंडिया गठबंधन के प्रत्याशी सुदर्शन रेड्डी साहब जीतेंगे।
Or fellow Hyderabad MP and AIMIM chief Asaduddin Owaisi announcing his support.
The India Bloc parties have unanimously decided to support his candidature, support him. And day after tomorrow the elections will be held. We hope he will perform well, and moreover we have appealed to all parties to vote according to their conscience who can be the best candidate in the given situation, and defending the constitution and democratic values.
And then the big question, how it would impact politics of the country going forward.
जहां तक प्रश्न है कि बिहार में उपराष्ट्रपति चुनाव के परिणाम का असर होगा कि नहीं, मुझे लगता है टेम्पो तो हर चुनाव के परिणाम का बनता है। अगर एनडीए अपने जो उनके मत हैं उससे अधिक मतों से अपने उम्मीदवार राधाकृष्णन जी को उपराष्ट्रपति पद का उम्मीदवार चुन लिए जाते हैं वो, तो निश्चित रूप से निसंदेह इसका असर बिहार विधानसभा के आगामी चुनाव पर पड़ेगा। और ये एनडीए वर्सेस महागठबंधन की जो लड़ाई बिहार विधानसभा में चुनाव में होने वाली है, उस पर जो एनडीए के एक हौसला बुलंद होगा, उनके नेताओं को कहने का मिलेगा, एक नैरेटिव सेट होगा। तो मैं इस बात में बहुत कन्विंस्ड हूं कि उपराष्ट्रपति पद के चुनाव परिणाम का असर बिहार विधानसभा चुनाव पर न सिर्फ पड़ेगा बल्कि एनडीए के पक्ष में एक माहौल संभवतः बनेगा।
It is over to Tuesday in the Parliament for the next Vice President of India.
And remember, it's a secret ballot, so which party you belong to and to which party's candidate you are voting, that's not known, and that's the reason why some analysts believe that the NDA candidate might win with more number of votes than the NDA alliance actually has in Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha taken together. We'll keep close track, of course. You watched that development on Tuesday. Moving on for now, the second story tonight. Prime Minister Modi is all set to visit Manipur on September 13. As I mentioned, it's yet to be officially announced. He's definitely going to be in Mizoram, and on the ground preparations are on so that Prime Minister also lands in Imphal. This will be his first visit to the state marred by violence and unrest since May of 2023. Congress has activated its attack, saying that the rushed visit is an insult to Manipur. But the ethnic groups are hopeful that PM Modi's visit might be the final seal in Manipur's peace and stability. A lot is happening on the ground. The administration has facilitated dialogue between both the sides. Relief camps have been moved from sensitive locations to better places. The Kuki groups showed welcome signs only this week by freeing the National Highway number 2 that guides traffic in and out of the Imphal Valley. The center extended the cessation of operations agreement by another year with the armed groups. Since President's rule, the state has seen almost no major incident of violence, and the recently signed peace deal has only made Manipur more hopeful. Here's what has happened and what to expect in the coming week.
What started as the dispute between Kuki and Meitei communities in Manipur shook the core of the entire nation. Young children, women became the easiest targets. And then the politics ensued.
मणिपुर पे चर्चा हो चर्चा हो चर्चा हो चर्चा हो भाई चर्चा हो चर्चा हो चर्चा हो मणिपुर पे चर्चा हो चर्चा हो चर्चा हो लज्जा लज्जा मणिपुर लज्जा लज्जा लज्जा
मणिपुर की स्थिति सामान्य करने के लिए सरकार निरंतर प्रयासरत है। वहां जो कुछ भी घटनाएं घटी, 11,000 से ज्यादा एफआईआर की गई। मणिपुर छोटा सा राज्य है, 11,000 एफआईआर की गई है। 500 से ज्यादा लोग अरेस्ट हुए। आदरणीय सभापति जी, इस बात को भी हमें स्वीकार करना होगा कि मणिपुर में लगातार हिंसा की घटनाएं कम होती जा रही है। जो भी तत्व मणिपुर की आग में घी डालने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं, मैं उनसे आगाह करता हूं कि ये हरकतें बंद करें। एक समय आएगा मणिपुर ही उनको रिजेक्ट करने वाला है, ऐसे लोगों को। और कांग्रेस के लोग ये न भूले कि मणिपुर में इन्हीं कारणों से 10 बार राष्ट्रपति शासन लगाना पड़ा है। इतने छोटे से राज्य में 10 बार प्रेसिडेंशियल रूल लगाना पड़ा है, राष्ट्रपति शासन लगाना पड़ा है।
From the ramparts of the Red Fort, Prime Minister Modi assured peace.
देश मणिपुर के लोगों के साथ है। देश मणिपुर के लोगों को पिछले कुछ दिनों से जो शांति बनाए रखी है, उस शांति के पर्व को आगे बढ़ाए और शांति से ही समाधान का रास्ता निकलेगा। और राज्य और केंद्र सरकार मिलकर के उन समस्याओं के समाधान के लिए भरपूर प्रयास कर रही है, करती रहेगी।
Followed by continued government efforts. Since the unrest, Manipur has participated in a Lok Sabha election and the state has witnessed the shift from N. Biren Singh's government to presidential rule.
What I do believe, what Manipur requires at this point of time is somebody of the stature of Prime Minister Narendra Modi to go and cement that trust which was distrust over the last couple of months.
Despite the painful memories, Manipur is looking to peace and stability. Prime Minister Modi's first Manipur visit on September 13 since the unrest is a major stepping stone towards peace in Manipur.
Manipur required neutrality, Manipur requires equality, and Manipur requires justice for the process of peace to be initiated. And I believe we have reached a point where there is some level of conflict resolution that has been successful.
The ground is being prepared for peace between Imphal and Churachandpur. The primary demand from PM Modi is of empathy and assurance of safety.
He should make the people feel, that he empathizes with our pain and all the problems we have gone through under the sort of brutal hands of the state-led, valley people who have been very, very extreme in our situation. You all know those details, so I won't. So the Prime Minister must come and offer a balm that we will no longer be vulnerable to the kind of situation we were from 3rd of May 2023, and as citizens of India we would be accorded similar rights as any other citizen, and our lives and dignity and property would be duly protected. I think he should give us that assurance.
The revised suspension of Operations Pact signed between Ministry of Home Affairs and Kuki-Zo groups on September 4 gives hope.
With all efforts on to bring back normalcy to the state of Manipur ahead of Prime Minister's likely visit to the state on 13th of September, Governor Ajay Balla today met with the BJP legislators. The meeting was also attended by Speaker Saityavrata along with former Chief Minister of the state and Biren Singh. The agenda of the meeting has not been revealed, but preparations are on in the state in full swing, along with all security measures being heightened for the Prime Minister's likely visit.
Now, I think what's going to be important for both the communities is to be able to identify reasonable voices of leadership from both the communities who can come on the table and facilitate some sort of dialogue towards lasting peace. Both communities have demands, and I think this is not really the time to put forth those demands. I think the demands can be addressed later. I think the second thing that's going to be really important is discussions towards opening up the highways and the roads so that communities can move in Manipur freely.
Since the resignation of Chief Minister N. Biren Singh, President's rule has been imposed. There have been consistent consensus-building measures, and central government is engaging with both the Kuki and the Meitei communities. Ahead of Prime Minister Modi's visit, the violence-hit people of both communities look forward to a long-lasting peaceful resolution.
The SO agreement with the Government of India and the state is a legal agreement, and it's only being renewed because government is also committed to the process of peaceful political dialogue to find a suitable solution for us based on our demand for union territory with legislature as similar to maybe the Puducherry model, so that we will have our local governance and our rights and lives and properties will be guarded by the constitutional provisions.
Hopefully, the Prime Minister's visit will be the last stamp which will cement a long-lasting peace in Manipur.
The President's rule has brought in considerable amount of peace. There have been no incidents of violence. Both the sides seem to have calmed down. The aggression, even in dialogue, public discourse seems to be less. And I think President's rule has done something very significant for the state, because it is only with this sort of peace can any amount of dialogue, can happen. Now, there was a time right at the outset of the conflict that some groups said that peace will not happen until unless their demands are met. And I think what the President's rule has proven is that the state is primary. And I think we have to respect the rules of the land, the law of the land, to be able to really bring back the kind of peace we had a couple of years ago.
What I do believe, what Manipur requires at this point of time is somebody of the stature of Prime Minister Narendra Modi to go and cement that trust which was distrust over the last couple of months. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be visiting Manipur. I think it will become the genesis of the conflict resolution and avoidance in Manipur after the Indian government has been working strategically in dialogues with people across different communities to ensure that peace is restored in Manipur.
That Manipur crisis is complex is an understatement. It's more than complex, with the possibility of a foreign hand also. But the fact that Prime Minister could be visiting Manipur this coming week is an indication that a lot of ground has been covered, not just between the government and the people, but between the two communities, the Kukis and the Maitis, at the heart of the crisis. Hopefully, we will see positive developments going forward in Manipur. Moving on for now, ladies and gentlemen, while Washington today is yet to decide its approach for the day to get a deal with India, whether through tantrums, mediation claims, release of attack hounds, or a shower of praise for PM Modi, there are a few nations of the world who are outdealing the world's bully. I'm of course talking about the European Union, the world's largest trading bloc, which is now in advanced negotiations to seal a free trade agreement with India before the year's end. Surprisingly, Europe has no apprehensions about a deal with India despite its close ties to Russia. It is perhaps EU, because EU has more rationality among nations and fewer egos to pander to. Pragmatic globalization at its best. Here is what many believe could be a game-changer deal for India as it now pivots away from the United States to diversify its markets for Swadeshi exports. The EU trade delegation will be in India this week, and we are all looking forward to their arrival.
I always will. I'll always be friends with Modi. He's great. Prime Minister, he's great.
While the world watches the India-US trade tariff standoff,
India and the United States have a special relationship. There's nothing to worry about.
We have good relations with the Americans. We have good relations with our counterparts, the Commerce Secretary or the US Trade Representative. We are negotiating in good faith. We will meet the long-term aspirations of the people of the US and India through a fair, equitable and balanced free trade agreement, respecting the sensitivities of the people of both countries.
India and the EU are in advanced stages of negotiating a free trade agreement.
EU and India are engaged in very intense negotiations and discussions.
Yes.
My Commerce Secretary was in Brussels only Monday, Tuesday.
Yes.
Their team comes down next week for negotiation round. The Trade Commissioner Maros Sharkovich will be in India from 11th onwards.
Wow.
So we are in a regular dialogue.
Just 3 days ago, Prime Minister Narendra Modi held a conversation with the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, and President of the European Council, Antonio Costa, about the, quote, early conclusion of the India-EU FTA and implementation of the IMEC corridor. The EU President too has echoed a similar sentiment, and just last week, German Foreign Minister, who was on a visit to India, also reaffirmed the same commitment.
We count on your support to deepen our relationship with the European Union and expedite the FTA negotiations. India and Germany have a strong history of multilateral cooperation, which I'm confident will be further advanced through our talks today.
Germany is a full supporter of getting this agreement negotiated as soon as even possible. We are a free trade nation, and of course you know that after or similar to the Mercosur agreement, the EU is working on the one with India is the most important to us. And I hope really that we can be successful, and you can be assured that we will use all arguments we have with the Commission to push this forward and to reach a new level between our countries and between the EU and India.
EU is one of that region, which is still believer in, free trade and multilateralism and so on, like India. And therefore, and also it has been as I said, a major partner. So whatever happens in the EU is important for India. And this FTA has been under negotiation for a long time.
In fact, if you're looking from the European side, in fact, many things, of course, will depend on what finally the agreement is going to be. But, average tariff in India are much higher than Europe. So obviously, they are going to benefit in many of those commodities, and particularly they are looking in the automobile sector, they are looking in the foods and drink sector. They are also looking particularly in the services sector, because in services, the Europeans are very, very competitive. And India, of course, would be looking into the labor-intensive sectors, particularly textile, leather, and many other areas, but also particularly in the areas of mobility, more for mobility. So we'll see if all these things are going to be part of the deal, and ultimately both are looking for benefits.
As the EU delegation arrives in India this week for pivotal FTA negotiations, both sides are pushing for a swift and ambitious deal. EU's commitment also reflects from the fact how President von der Leyen of the European Commission and the College of Commissioners had visited India last year in an unprecedented move. EU was the largest trading partner of India for goods, with trade being USD $137.4 billion in the financial year 2023-24. Bilateral trade between the two sides in services was estimated at $51.45 billion in 2023. Negotiations are at an advanced stage. Core discussions focus on reducing tariffs and enhancing market access in automotive and pharmaceutical sectors, along with textiles, dairy, wine, and digital services. Meanwhile, India seeks easier entry for its pharma exports, while the EU pushes for protections in vehicle and agricultural goods. Beyond trade, the FTA signals a deeper alliance, fostering strategic autonomy for both India and the European Union in a multipolar world. This comes against the backdrop of the historic India-US tariff war, where escalating duties have strained the relationship, prompting India to diversify its partners.
I think economic powerhouse and the most populous country and biggest democracy in the world, India has a special importance in a world region that is of strategic importance. Our economies in particular have a lot to gain, I believe, if we are to further expand our cooperation.
Well, it is helpful in the sense that at least it is a group of countries which do not think like the Americans under the Trump administration, in terms of imposition of tariffs and imposition of other barriers, protectionism so much, and in that sense it is very helpful. But then these days, each country or group of countries have their own sort of characteristics. I mean, it's not necessary that what we do with the EU, other countries will necessarily copy that.
There's no question that the United States and India, as the two largest democracies in the world, have very much in common. There's really no international problem that can't benefit from cooperation between the United States and India. That having been said, the present administration and Donald Trump have done more to damage the U.S.-India relationship in 24 hours than we were able to achieve in bringing the nations closer together over 35 years. There's no question that India at this point needs to turn to other democracies throughout the world, Western Europe, Japan, Australia, others who have common values in order to secure its own interests.
At this point of time, when there are every country is finding difficulty with having a trade with the United States, although European Union has already made a deal with the United States, with 15% tariffs, but still, things are unpredictable. Many things are still need to be worked it out, and India we are struggling to have a deal with the United States. So I think it's important for both the countries because for particularly for India, European Union is a big export market. For EU it may not be as big, but still they feel in this kind of climate, having a trade deal with India itself also sends a very important signal strategically to the United States and to the world. So I think the climate is perfectly suitable now to have a trade deal.
While India and the EU inch closer for a deal that may not have been on the top of everyone's radar, Washington seems to be in dire need of recalibration.
It is very, very harmful. It's just impossible to have an economic relationship when, one, the Trump administration believes that there is a need to address trade deficits through some sort of reciprocal tariff. Trade deficits are a problem separate and apart from tariffs. So that's 25% of the 50%. The other has to do with Russian oil. And on that, India needs to see what its long-term interests are and work with others to secure an oil supply at reasonable prices while trying to do its very best to stop the war that Russia has imposed on Ukraine.
The ongoing tariff conflict highlights contrasting approaches. While American policies emphasize protectionism, the EU's collaborative stance is drawing India closer, potentially reshaping the global trade dynamics. These developments come as India has emerged as a #1 trading partner for the world in recent years, with a CEPA with UAE in 2022, the ECTA with Australia in 2022, the EFTA trade deal completed just last month, the FTA with the United Kingdom signed in the month of May, and trade talks closing in with Oman with a date of signing impending.
India equals Asia for us, and Germany and the European Union, in a way, are equivalent for India.
As talks progress, the FTA could redefine India and EU relations, setting standards for sustainable and technology-driven trade. Success hinges on mutual concessions, with experts optimistic yet cautious about navigating remaining hurdles. The EU trade delegation will soon land in India, and Bharat is looking forward to it.
There is one clear message coming out of this story, which is that India is unruffled by whatever President Trump does, morning, evening, through his posts and even through his attack dogs. We leave it there. Moving on, less than a week since the SCO summit in Tianjin concluded and US President Trump was only processing the Victory Day parade of Beijing, the Global South is once again ready to rally in solidarity, this time with intent to call out Trump's tariff bullying. However, this time the stage is virtual and the forum is BRICS. You might be wondering that BRICS just had a leaders' summit in July. What was the dire need to summon a virtual session in less than 2 months? Well, that's the story of tariffs, tantrums and tyranny. Lula says Trump isn't the emperor of the world. Putin says the US cannot speak like this to nations with billions in population. China is calling for India to tango. And India is putting up a direct fight against Trump that no nation has dared. But what will happen when all of them combine their strength together? Here is what we look forward to this week.
Vocês pensam, eu não vou ligar para o Trump para comercial não, porque ele não quer falar. Mas pode ficar certo, Marina. Eu vou ligar para o Trump para convidá-lo para vir para a COP, porque eu quero saber o que ele pensa da questão climática. Vou ter a gentileza de ligar. Vou ligar para ele, vou ligar para o Xi Jinping, vou ligar para o primeiro-ministro Modi, vou ligar. Eu não vou ligar para o Putin, porque o Putin não está podendo viajar. Mas vou ligar para muitos presidentes, eu quero ver.
He promised and he delivered.
You know, you have this little group called BRICS. It's fading out fast.
While Trump would like to believe BRICS is fading out, Brazil is set to hold the summit for a second time this year, this time virtually. This after Brazil had taken a stand against the US bullying, Lula even saying that Trump is not the emperor of the world.
I said, anybody that's in the BRICS consortium of nations, we're going to tariff you 10%. And they had a meeting the following day and almost nobody showed up. They said, leave me alone.
While President Putin couldn't travel to Rio this year on July 6th due to various international travel restrictions, and President Xi Jinping reportedly skipped it because of the state honor visit given to Prime Minister Narendra Modi by the Brazilian president, the July Fest star was India alone. A lot has changed since July. Today, India and Brazil both stand as some of the highest tariff nations in the world by the United States at 50%. And while the pictures of Tianjin are still sinking in for Washington, PM Modi is set to give BRICS virtual summit a pass, with External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar attending instead.
I'm still struck by how insecure the North is when you speak about the BRICS. Somehow something seems to get under people's skin. Yeah. And here's an observation. If there is a G20, did the G7 disband? Has it stopped meeting? No, it still continues. So if the G20 exists, the G20 is there, but the G7 still exists. Then why can't the G20 be there and the BRICS also exist?
There will not be a common BRICS currency, but the reality is that with India there, and frankly, BRICS is now a much more inclusive forum than it was in the past. It would have been without India. So the reality of the situation is that I think we are looking at how we can pay for each other's exports using the local currencies, and I think that will be a very important factor in going forward. The reality is President Trump, by his actions, is making people lose confidence in the US dollar. It was begun by Obama and his sanctions, continued by Biden, because of the Ukraine war, and Trump unfortunately is going the same route. It's very good that India remained in BRICS. India remained in SCO. I'd always been a supporter of that when many people were calling for the for the withdrawal of India from SCO and BRICS, I said it may come in handy. And today it has come in handy. It has given us some breathing space. And frankly, it has given Prime Minister Modi the confidence to basically not make outrageous and one-sided concessions of the type that Donald Trump has been demanding.
Meanwhile, for the Chinese, after a mega show of strength both in Tianjin and in Beijing, the BRICS virtual summit is another chance for them to take on US hegemony.
Only China that is countering the United States hegemony. That dynamic also applies to America's traditional allies, including the European Union, including India, because the President Trump is now upending the whole world order, launching a global tariff war, left, right, and center, not only against his perceived existential threat, which is China and Russia, but also against his allies, including India and the European Union. And of course, these kind of disruptions affect many countries in the Global South. And that's why the Global South is rallying together, not to form a bloc to make an enemy of the United States, but to recalibrate relationship with the United States hegemon. It used to be a more reliable partner.
Meanwhile, for Russia, the BRICS virtual summit is another chance for it to further strengthen its partnership with the Global South. After all the talks of quote-unquote global isolation, from Alaska to Tianjin, Putin is now the talk of the town.
As SCO, for Russia is a platform for dialogue with non-Western countries to discuss cooperation, to discuss economic cooperation in the field of pressure from Western countries in the United States, for pressure for tariff and sanctions, for cooperation and institution that not belongs to Western civilization, because United States sanctions to Russia. United States has tariff pressure to India, and it is not fair deal with our countries, and we need to discuss how to handle with it and how to increase our cooperation in this field.
Compared to the SCO, BRICS is a bigger grouping. While SCO represents nearly 40% of the global population, BRICS takes it up a notch with nearly 45%. Economically, BRICS makes up 44% of the global GDP, while SCO stands at 40%. The big question is, the summit that is exclusively called on to take on Trump's tariffs, will it be able to do so? What SCO couldn't apart from the optics?
The BRICS, when it was originally formed, consisted only of course, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. But in recent years, it's expanded to include many countries in the Global South, including some Middle East countries and countries in Eurasia. So the BRICS group is much larger than before, and it includes many key players in the Global South, including, of course, China, India, and Russia, but countries in the Middle East, and also countries in like Turkey. So I think that BRICS is much more influential than before.
However, it's not just the tariff agenda that has put US on alert vis-a-vis the BRICS. It's also the contentious issue of de-dollarization.
They have to pay 10% if they're in BRICS, because BRICS was set up to hurt us.
BRICS was set up to degenerate our dollar. And dollar is king. The dollar is king. We're going to keep it that way.
BRICS currency is a key for success of non-US dollar currency, because BRICS countries is unified key and the most strong economies after Western excluding Western countries, and Russia, India, China can discuss how to handle without USD, how to settle without USD, and they have enough power to discuss it.
While India has remained aloof from the idea of a BRICS currency, its main goal at BRICS is going to be pivoting to the markets of the global south for diversification of trade amidst the tariff standoff with the United States.
Diversification of markets is absolutely essential. There's no doubt about that. But at the same time, one must recognize that the US is still by far the largest economy in the world. So obviously, India is not going to take a stance that is hostile to the United States. I mean, so far as taking a stand against Trump's tariffs are concerned, well, I think that is a separate issue altogether. But Trump does not represent the US of A. And India and the US of A have formed a bond over a quarter of a century. And that bond is not going to break in a hurry. So I would say that India is definitely not going to get into a slanging match with the United States, nor is it going to basically, get into a match on behalf of other countries that may want to fire on India's shoulders to launch anti-US broadsides, while at the same time being very polite themselves to the United States and even to Donald Trump. Prime Minister Modi has shown his firm leadership, his determination to protect India, and I think that's the right decision.
The date is September 8th. The stage will be virtual, but the outcome could shape the future of the Global South's collective response to Trump's tariffs. Just today, the Japanese Prime Minister stepped down after an election debacle following Japan's attempts to placate the US tariffs. Amidst this, India is leading the charge amongst BRICS nations to stand up to US bullying. Will the BRICS summit galvanize the global south to put up a collective fight? That is what we'll be looking forward to this week.
All right, these were the 4 stories to look forward to. Two of them were domestic, about domestic politics, and 2 concerned geoeconomics and geopolitics. So I hope you enjoyed the show. We're coming to an end with this short break. On the other side, news is back.